3.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
Ty, I've got a question for you already to start the Fast Lane this afternoon. Have you ever heard the phrase carpe diem?
No.
Okay. If the answer is yes, my follow-up is going to be, is that just because of the trostlaw.com fast take earlier today? But it's no, so I don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
Meanwhile, they might notice a figure in the background for those watching at Fast Lane Ed Lane and VTRN Sports on Facebook Live. I'm Ed Lane. Ty Tracy is with us today. And in the background, shadowing / interning, first day at the Virginia Talk Radio Network, Luke Barnett. Luke, straddle on up to the microphone. You cannot be shy if you're going to be in these parts.
I do know what carpe diem means.
What does it mean?
Seize the day.
My man, somebody under the age of 25 years old or 30. How old are you, by the way, Ty? Yes, I amended myself and avenged myself. Ty's 28. Somebody under the age of 30 knows what that means. Truthfully, I did not know what that means, but Jamie Chadwell seems to know what it means because he met with the media today and was discussing the Liberty Flames quarterback competition that still appears to be a battle right now. That was my phone, by the way, Luke. Somebody's phone got knocked down. It was mine. So Jamie Chadwell immediately got in front of this, knowing that we would ask about it at his Thursday media availability today.
We've not named a quarterback, so I know y'all going to ask that. So I'm telling y'all that up front. We've not named one yet. I think both Basco and Berger are doing a good job. They're performing at a good level. And so we want to make sure that, we practice as much as we can before we make our final decision there. But I like where both of them have been.
I like where both of them have been. Okay, that's part of it. But if you haven't named a starting quarterback right now, and again, to get my usher on for a second, I was at a family trip this past weekend, so I was not at Saturday's scrimmage. But by all accounts, specifically John Manson, CFRed.com, Bryson Gordon, NewsAdvance.com, both of them indicated, along with others who were there, that nobody seemed to stand out as a quarterback, which matches what we've heard up through training camp. And I know it was an eternity ago, but the spring game, even at that time, Ty and I were there for that. Nobody looked like they had stood out in that regard. So it's natural for us to do, some people will call it recklessly speculate. I wouldn't call it that because we kind of couch it as somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but to provide a level of insight, which is what we do right now and what he said and what he meant.
The best place to find true insight is in a press conference.
He cares about the players. We've got a true veteran that's been in this game a long time. He really wanted this opportunity.
It's not a media scrum.
They found a way to persevere through it. They didn't get down. They didn't start pointing fingers. They all looked at themselves in the mirror and said, hey, we're going to figure out what it takes. The least important thing in a game is a score at halftime, right?
It's listening to the Fast Lane dissect what's really being said by your favorite players, coaches, and administrators.
In the 40-minute game, no one cares. You got to be able to execute on both ends of the floor. Man, they play hard for 40 minutes.
It's time for what he or she said and what he or she meant.
My favorite is still the Richie McKay. Man, they play hard for 40 minutes. You've been there to enough press conferences, Ty, to know that oftentimes he's saying that in a complimentary way to a team that is not quite on Liberty's level.
Yeah, it's just like, you just know, I'm like, dude, just get to the point. We already know. You say this every single time.
Yes. This, you're doing really well, but it's like, just cut the you're doing really well part and just get to whatever's going to come after the but part. So what he said and what he meant. Jamie Chadwell, he did elaborate on it because he was pressed on the quarterback competition at Liberty, which right now seems to still be a legitimate competition. Either he's got a really good poker face, wouldn't be the first time, wouldn't be the last, that a coach has that. Or there are some things he would like to see. And based on most accounts of where the Flames are at quarterback, I don't think they're in a terrible spot. I don't think they have options that would be the equivalent of trotting me out there at quarterback, which would be an abject disaster. But you'd like to see some things out of quarterback play if you're Liberty. And so Jamie Chadwell mentioned there are certain things in particular about what the quarterbacks have shown and what they'd like to see. First of all, let's be positive for a second, but what they've shown.
I think, I said it earlier, just that, we're confident in the experience somebody has that goes out there that they're going to take care of the ball and be able to provide the offense what it needs to be to score points. I think that's one. Consistency matters, and so those are the two things. I think both of them up to this point have shown that they can move the ball and score.
So Jamie Chadwell with the stammering at the beginning of that answer, I don't think it's I believe, and I think he and Willie Korn believe, there are legitimately positive things the quarterbacks can do with Liberty. I think what he's in this spot, and I get it, is he's hyper-focused right now, as he should be, on what are the fine details that are going to separate a quarterback that, if they came in relief, we think we'd be good with, from the one that we ultimately want to be QB1 going forward. And when you're looking with that type of a critical eye, with the pressure intensifying, I get it. To us on the outside, it's Maine. They're going to be a 3-touchdown plus favored, are the Liberty Flames. We get that. But you're thinking Maine and beyond if you're Jamie Chadwell. So I get it that I think consistency in things they've shown, positivity in terms of the way they've handled themselves and their attitude, those are good things for the quarterback competition at Liberty. But Ty, you've been around coaches as well. When they get closer to that first game in particular, when you don't know quite what you have in your team, you think you do, but you don't quite know. There's I wouldn't call it emotional level, but there's an intensity that starts to change because you really want to know what you have and be able to plan accordingly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially the quarterback position, because you got to think about week 1 is right around the corner. It's not like it's 3 months away. It's literally around the corner. They've been having this hard time since early February, I think.
Yep.
They still trying to figure out who's the quarterback. I just feel like both quarterbacks, not criticize both of them. They got experience, but I think they still haven't got the experience. Okay, what happened? More details of the quarterback. What happened? When the team's down, who you could depend on. What happened? Some stuff don't work on the field, or some different play calls and stuff. Can you manage the offense? Even some play calls doesn't work and everything. Can you adjust the offense if you see something different?
God, it's almost like you played football for Brad Bradley at Heritage and then went on to Virginia Union, Ty. I mean, you're spoken like somebody who's been in these spots before.
Yeah, I mean, it's just basic, as a person who's still in the game, but it's as a quarterback, you want a smart quarterback. You want a veteran quarterback, but you want that quarterback who can, take over when you need him to, without saying anything.
Yeah.
I think that's what Coach Chow was kind of, I ain't trying to speak for him. I think that's he's looking for, who can make that difference like Kaidon Salter did when he was at Liberty.
Yeah, I think some of that is the case. And we're talking about Goodyear Kaidon Salter 2023, maybe not as much last year when, we've mentioned, everybody's documented it, distractions for him, team wasn't seemingly gelled together, and the Flames are beyond that, but you still have to go out and win games. And I think you mentioned it, kind of the whole carpe diem, seize the day, seize the moment. That's what Jamie Chadwell is looking for right now. I think there are two quarterbacks that could manage the game well. When he's talking about consistency, doing what we ask, speaking of those positives, those sound like, and the term game manager is bad. Game manager is good as a base level.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you're Jamie Chadwell or any coach, you want a quarterback that can be a game manager, but when you add additional wrinkles yourself or need an additional wrinkle to be added because the urgency of the moment calls for it. You're down in the game, or you have a chance to extend the lead before halftime and you get the ball to start the second half, and you want to have that level of urgency and precision. Those are things you're seeking. And Jamie Chadwell mentioned that right now it's that down-to-down consistency, not just being able to do what's asked for it, but to make sure you stay ahead of the chains, stay in a favorable spot, so that then you can take the next step with those particular players.
If I ask you one question, do you feel like when they play against Maine, do you see some quarterback changes, hey, let's put him in, see how the offense flow and everything?
Good question. I think it's reasonable. So to what he said and what he meant, Jamie Chadwell at first mentioned that they will name a quarterback one publicly at some point.
Yeah, we'll probably name it publicly at some point there. We just, we just started, our preparation here this week. And so we want to make sure that, we've dotted all our I's and all our T's and made sure that as we make our decisions, the best one, we're evaluating everything. Experience matters. I think experience is a big deal. And so we want to make sure that we've done everything possible, because they both, and I think, Mike's had a good camp as well, I think, but Ethan and Ryan, we got to make sure that we've given them every opportunity to showcase what they're about. And we've done that up to this point, but we felt like as a coaching staff, we need just a little bit more time there.
So giving them every opportunity to showcase what they're about. Here's what he said and what he meant. That's code for, if we've given them every opportunity and we still haven't named a starter, they have not asserted themselves to this point. Am I reading into that erroneously? I can't speak for Jamie Chadwell, but just outside studier of the game of football, asking you, Ty, who is in the same boat, but also has played and been in locker rooms at high-level high school and college programs, am I off base in believing that if somebody had asserted themselves, there's a good chance they would have been named the starter right now, especially considering the opponent's main, and you're not feeling like you're giving away a competitive advantage?
I think they will name it right. I think after the spring game, and then they will announce it during the summer, but it has not been announced. So that's why I was like, I think there's a lot of concern still for the coaching staff. I mean, I'm not speaking. I'm assuming because I play defensive end, but as a quarterback, they still haven't named it. So I feel like there's still some questions in the coaches room, They're going back and forth right now.
So it's a good point. And I agree with that. Jamie Chadwell mentioned they would like to have a quarterback one going forward, but he was pressed on it a little bit. And first of all, he elaborated and reiterated the idea that they are not planning, note that word, to keep QB1 a secret.
We'll name it at some point. I'm not going to keep it a secret too long. I've done that before. But we just want to make sure we've done our due diligence and all the metrics that we're looking at and all those things. And I think it's a good thing, because that means, both guys are doing some good stuff. If you named the one, that means probably the other one's not really confident in it. You're not confident in. And so I think we're confident in either who goes out there.
I don't know if I totally buy that, in the sense that you want one quarterback that you're a little more confident. You want your starter to be the quarterback that can manage the game and make plays. And usually with the backup, maybe they can make plays, but they also have some finer kinks to work out in managing the game, or maybe they're really good at managing the game, but they're not quite up to par on making the plays. There's going to be some level of a gap that you're looking for. And it's not that you don't trust the backup quarterback if the situation calls for it. When you have 5 on the roster, you would venture to say that you've got a pecking order. But I'll brush back a little bit on Jamie Chadwell in the sense that, you do want somebody to step to the forefront at some point, and it's not disparaging to the other guy. It's just you want a guy that you can confidently say is your guy, if nothing else, to get it going against Maine and determine whether the offense can and is working with that guy, or if they're stalling out against Maine. You got an answer pretty quickly against a team like that if they're not moving the ball against Maine, maybe we got to consider other options.
So if I ask you who you think should be, if you was Jamie Chadwell, who would you pick as your starting quarterback, and why? Or would you be like,
I'd be like, as an outside observer, because I haven't seen enough of these guys in action. Mm-hmm. Ryan Berger played in the bowl game last year, but
it was kind of like the offense was like,
it was a shell of what an offense should look like.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I am not going to just discount Ryan Berger as a quarterback, because Malik Willis would have been fine back there because he's so athletic he could make plays. A fully locked in and engaged Kaidon Salter could make plays, and you could just do things with him that you couldn't with someone else. Mm-hmm. Fully locked in, which was not Kaidon Salter last year, but the 2023 version could have done something with it. But outside of that, at Liberty, you're probably not going to find a guy where there's not some level of deficiency, processing, athleticism, injuries, whatever, there that could put you in a spot. So I have a tough time with Ryan Berger. And Vasco was initially recruited by Coastal Carolina, so there's program familiarity in terms of the Chadwell system and Ethan Vasco. But I just haven't seen enough, is probably where I'm getting at. If you said, hey, which quarterback you have to go with, as an outside observer, I don't have a level of conviction that anybody should be the guy. But what I would want if I'm the coaching staff is having a working knowledge of our system. I'm speaking on behalf of the coaches here. If I'm a coach who has a working knowledge of our system, I know what our system is and what it entails, and somebody we believe we can make an educated decision that this person is pulled forward, we need to go with them at the beginning.
I feel like it's like it might be one dimensional. You know what I'm saying? They don't have the athleticism like Kaidon Salter or like Malik Willis, but it's like I feel like this offense might be one dimensional. That's why I feel like that might be the problem as well.
Fast Lane, Ed Lane, or Ty Tracy 90 on the Twitter and Instagram accounts. If you want to drop your thoughts with us, we'll keep them coming today. And then, of course, tomorrow, TJ's got the Fast Lane, as he'll be doing Fridays for a while for us now with high school football on the horizon. JF Cavalier Football presented by TrostLaw.com. And then it'll be Ty or TJ or Trey and me Monday next week. And here we go. Game week, high school, college, and everything. But you brought up the point about 2 QBs. And Jamie Chowell, again, the whole what he said, what he meant theme with which we've been running here at the beginning of the Fast Lane today. But Jamie Chowell said he hadn't thought of 2 QBs, which, again, I
hadn't thought about that, but maybe, who knows? I think right now we're just focused on who's going out there right now as far as who's doing well, and they both are. We're just focused on trying to make that decision. It could be. We'll see what happens here in the next few days.
To quote the great Bill Lumberg from Office Space.
Ooh, yeah. I'm going to have to go ahead and sort of disagree with you there.
If only because you're playing scenarios out in your head as a coach. I don't fault Jamie Chowell for Liberty, but I don't know if I've really thought about that. Maybe thought about or given legitimate consideration to that, but I don't know if I've thought about it. To me, I'm not saying he's lying. I'm saying there are multiple ways to interpret thinking about. Seriously considering it, I could understand that. But the thought crossing his mind of, hey, we might have to go to QB2 if QB1 doesn't work out early against Maine, I think you're always playing that out. Even if you've got a good, healthy, entrenched starter, you're thinking of what you would do if your backup has to go into the game. So that's where I would disagree with Jamie Chowell and Liberty that, yes, I 100% believe they want to have a QB1, and they're responsible to do that. But where I will brush back a little bit and get the old Bill Lumberg on and disagree, so to speak, is that they've never considered any scenario because coaches do that all the time, even if they want to have, again, I think Liberty, they want to have a QB1. They want somebody to seize the day, seize the moment, seize the job between now and next Saturday against Maine. By the way, tickets for all Liberty home games except the JMU, $19.99. Get them now, InsaneRadioDeals.com. But I do think for Liberty, you're pushing buttons right now to see if somebody, notably Ethan Vasco or Ryan Berger, will assert themselves so that you have more clarity and confidence heading into next Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I feel like this Saturday, their scrimmage is going to be kind of big, and I think that's going to make the final decision. But I still feel like, to me, like I preached before, JMU is going to be the solidify who's going to be the QB1, because I think that's going to be the biggest test.
Well, again, I think you're building up to that game. Everyone talks about Jacksonville State. I get it, but this is not Rich Rod, Jacksonville State. This is a totally new regime in place. I remember Jacksonville State gave Liberty fits with the running game last year, but the personnel, the concept, all of that, they're in Morgantown, West Virginia, which, I think West Virginia's got as good a chance as anybody to compete in the obviously wide open Big 12. But you're talking about, for Liberty's schedule, I'm with you. JMU's the game where you really want to have your answers. And that's where Jamie Chowell mentioned things that he's looking for in the quarterback. This, again, I think sheds light in the fact that I think they've got options that can manage the game, but you're looking for a little bit more out of that position.
Because we totally look at all that stuff. Who gives us the best chance to keep the chains moving? Not put us in a bad position, whether that's taking a sack they shouldn't take, some of those things. We're really hammering into those details because if you go back and we went back and looked and studied and any time that we put ourselves in some bad situations that it's been hard for us to overcome offensively. And I say bad situations, second and long, and so that were self-inflicted, right? Taking a sack when we shouldn't supposed to. Some of those things. So we're really hammering in on those details of who gives us the best chance to not put us in a bad position where we have to be behind the chains. That's the thing we're really hammering on this next few days.
It's not just turnovers, which are the obvious one, but it's the other little details. And I get it. If I'm Jamie Chowell, you want more clarity on that answer, which is a primary objective going forward between now and, like you mentioned, the Saturday afternoon scrimmage, which will be closed to the public. But between now and then, and obviously once you get to Sunday, Monday, you're preparing for Maine.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I was like, I think it's going to be a lot of talk and a lot of decision making from the next after Saturday, from Sunday all the way to Monday. It might be some more decisions on Thursday too, so I wouldn't be surprised.
I could see this dragging out, and that's where I would have a little bit of reservation for Liberty. I think they'll get it figured out. I think you start to get answers against Maine just because it is live game action. It is not friendly fire. It's teams that literally want to beat you versus practice where they want to, but you can't sack. You can't handle all of that. Even for a lot of quarterbacks, and you probably know this because you couldn't actually hit them in practice at Heritage or Virginia Union, Ty, but once the game action goes, some of them actually step up because they're good at getting out of pressure, or they can handle it, and they're not afraid of it. Others, all of a sudden, that protection of a red jersey or whatever color the do not hit jersey, when that's gone, it changes their demeanor, and you start to get answers really quickly.
Oh yeah, definitely. But like I said, it's nothing against Maine. It's like it's Maine. We don't know who they are. Not saying we don't know who you are. Like that's not good competition. I mean, they gonna come and compete still, but it's like we want to see like some better competition. See how they are when like we face a atrocious D line or like a vicious defense, like a top defense that knows who goes will knock you down the ground and everything.
Yeah, very true. So you've got that. You're going to get a real idea going forward for the Liberty Flames. Meanwhile, when we return in the fast lane, we'll get an idea of how successful the NASCAR racing action at Richmond was. And is there something that Kyle Busch could learn from Austin Dillon? We'll return to discuss that with Mike Neff of FrenchStretch.com. Then around 5:45 today, Ahmad Hawkins on the Virginia Cavaliers. He will step into the fast lane right here on the VTRN Sports app.
Savings are heating up, and so are the summer super deals at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. You don't need super strength to get approved for credit. Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is super with financing options for every budget. Sheeler makes car buying easy with the hottest brands all in one location. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs. Getting his miles and routine, remaining factory warranties, or even local one-owner vehicles. Over 900 used vehicles in stock now and ready to move. More than any other dealer in the area.
Those are apples and oranges.
Selection and savings. Need some summer spending cash? Sheeler will
I mean,
buy your vehicle even if you don't buy from us.
Really
Super money for your trade. Volume selling means volume pricing. And we've got the volume of over 900 used vehicles in stock now. No games, no gimmicks. Just summer super deals at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. Your premier used car dealer. Locally owned for over 50 years. ID limits at 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. All at Sheeler.com.
Are your windows difficult to open and close? Are you air conditioning the outdoors with gaps around your old, worn-out windows? It's time to call Collins Siding and Windows. Let their experienced craftsmen transform your home's appearance with beautiful new windows while also saving you money on energy costs. Since 1989, Collins Siding and Window has been transforming homes in the Lynchburg area. Call Collins Siding and Window today for all of your exterior home projects. Call today, 434-525-6307.
Hey, small to medium business owners, if you're frustrated with slow IT support, high costs, or paying for services you just don't use, it's time for a change. Hi, I'm Colt with We Fix Stupid Computers. We provide reliable on-site and remote support tailored for businesses just like yours. And we go beyond just fixing problems. We empower your staff with real technology so they can work smarter every day. From repairs, training, to full IT support, we save you time, stress, and money. Call We Fix Stupid Computers, 434-525-8590, where smart support meets real savings.
Your home is more than just walls and windows. It's where life happens. And at Right Choice Construction, we get that. We're not just builders. We're fathers, mothers, neighbors, just like you. And every nail and every beam reflects our commitment to creating a place you're proud to live in. With Right Choice Construction, you're choosing a team that's been perfecting the art of building for years. So build with us, build with experience, build with quality, build with Right Choice.
Summertime means hot temperatures, but hot deals are at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Check out great deals from the Lynchburg Hillcats, both general public and premium reserve tickets at the site right now. Try scuba classes from Aqua Trek Adventures. Plus, one of the best deals at all, Linux and Lynchburg Bedliners, a $700 value for only $567. Hot deals during this hot summer at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Head to Lynchburg-Hillcats.com to lock in your tickets for the Lynchburg Hillcats this season. Now here's VTRN Sports.
Hi, this is Zach Mackey, the voice of Virginia Tech men's basketball. You're listening to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle. Join the chat at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
Another one of these great segues of using tennis and NASCAR, but the tennis legend Billie Jean King use the phrase pressure is a privilege. So last week, our own TJ Wilkerson connected with Austin Dillon right before he went out and dominated the Cup Series race at Richmond Raceway. And here was Austin Dillon on pressure.
Pressure is what you put on yourself, and want to go out there and definitely do the best we can for our organization, for the men and women that put in the time and effort to build fast race cars, and hopefully bring some trophies back to welcome North Carolina.
So first of all, again, let's be transparent and keep it real in the fast lane for a moment. It's easier for Austin Dillon to handle the pressure of wanting to perform, knowing that once his career is done, there is a very legitimately a business possibility for him at Richard Childress Racing, considering his grandfather is the owner, Mr. Richard Childress. So let's keep all that in context here in the fast lane. But maybe there's a lesson for Kyle Busch to be learned, because Kyle Busch is a finicky driver. When things go his way, he's great. But when things don't go his way, it can get very challenging. And not that other drivers are not particular, but Kyle Busch, maybe even more so, is in that category. And kind of wonder if Kyle Busch could maybe, and I know he'll never say this, but just as fun outside observers, professional speculators in the fast lane, could he learn something from Austin Dillon in terms of how to handle when things aren't going well? And let's be real, an organization in Richard Childress Racing that they can creep up for a win here or there, but they are not a week in and week out contender like fellow Chevy compatriot, Hendrick Motorsports, or even other big boys in NASCAR like Penske/Wood Brothers and Joe Gibbs Racing. So somebody with perspective who knows plenty about the history of RCR, including about the great legendary Dale Earnhardt Sr., among other things, the grumpy old man, MNeff Short Track on Twitter and Instagram, and a friend of ours, once again, back with us here in the fast lane. Neff, first of all, can you hear us right now? Okay, having a little difficulty for Neff hearing us right now in the fast lane. We're going to try to get that ironed out momentarily. And then I don't know what's going on with that. Or if maybe we need to try him on the phone as opposed to. All right, can you hear us now, Neff? Okay, scrap it. Let's go with a phone call instead. We'll call Mike Neff of frontstretch.com in just a moment and switch it over to that so that we don't have to worry about that. Because it's a worthwhile conversation. And maybe I'm not the only one, but again, when you're considering the Kyle Busch can learn something from Austin Dillon, keep in mind this, because Austin Dillon spoke with our very own TJ Wilkerson last week before that win at Richmond on the path to retirement and then what awaits afterwards and how that can shape him as a driver.
Well, I love being a part of RCR, and I want to help build RCR in any way possible. My grandfather has done a great job here at RCR, and I want to support him and our family the best we can and get it back to its winning ways in any way possible, if that's driving or helping from a management role. Right now we have a PBR team, the Carolina Cowboys, and I've enjoyed being the GM of it and working with people. And I just love sports in general and the competitive nature that comes along with it.
That was Austin Dillon last week in the fast lane. Likes it, likes being around. And again, his attitude with pressure of performance is so different from most drivers. He and Ty Gibbs are probably the two unique ones in this spot where underperformance has been there. And again, I'm as big of a Ty Gibbs apologist as there is, but he's underperformed. And I don't think he's winning at Daytona, so I don't think he's getting into the NASCAR chase for the second consecutive year. And I know he's just wrapping up his second year, but he hasn't gotten to victory lane. People have expected it. And there's a high level of success that's expected to come with Ty Gibbs and just hasn't been there. He's gotten better this year, but it's not been on the train and the trajectory people thought. And you factor that in underperformance with Austin Dillon's, and it's different. But you kind of wonder if Kyle Busch maybe could still take a lesson from Austin Dillon, because the attitude has been there with Austin Dillon, whereas when things have gone south for Kyle Busch, not as much, and he has not gotten close to victory lane. Now, in his defense, Austin Dillon really wasn't that close except for the race at Richmond this past weekend, but Dillon has kept his head on his shoulders and dominated that race at Richmond for a legitimate win. So to help put perspective to all of this, Mike Neff, frontstretch.com. You won't get to see his glorious face at Fastlane, Edlane, and VTRN Sports on Facebook Live and YouTube, but we're still pleased to connect in audio form with the grumpy old man himself, Mike Neff. Neff, glad to have you in the fast lane. Is there or are there things that Kyle Busch can learn from Austin Dillon about how to handle maybe not the most desirable racing organization, but one where if you keep grinding, you might have your chances here and there to get to victory lane?
First of all, glad to be on. Don't know why my audio wasn't working, but I'm glad you at least got it figured out so I could be on the phone. There's a few different angles on the Kyle Busch thing. First of all, when he had kids, that really changed his attitude to begin with. Because let's face it, Kyle Busch wrecking Ron Hornaday at Texas in a truck years ago was who Kyle Busch was. He doesn't do that kind of action anymore, which is a step in the right direction, although for the Chase Elliott fans out there, they don't believe that. They think he wrecked Chase on purpose at Richmond, although I don't buy that. But yes, there's Kyle has still been supportive of his team and has really not thrown RCR under the bus, which, let's be fair, he could do that because until last weekend, neither one of them have been overly competitive. Kyle had a shot at Coda, ran decent at the first Atlanta race, but other than that, he hasn't had a great shot, and part of that has been to blame on his team and on him because, again, last weekend he had a speeding penalty on pit lane. And with this current car, you can't get yourself that far back into traffic very often and be able to drive out of it. So there's things that he's brought on himself, but yes, he's got a positive attitude, but at the same time, yeah, he could probably be a little bit more positive and a little bit more receptive to trying to make this car work. Because let's face it, this car and his style have not gone together.
There's kind of an irony to this because the grumpy old man is encouraging somebody else to be more positive, but we have fun. I mean, hey, we got to keep it real for you enough here in the fast lane. Stepping away from the outcome, though, and the race itself at Richmond. They get another crack at this. It'll be one race on the schedule. You've been advocating that most race venues, frankly, deserve a race. They're going to be back in this mid-August slot with a Saturday night cup race and a Friday night truck race next year. Down on the TV ratings, but up in terms of attendance. And I would say up in terms of the quality of racing from start to finish. Where are you on how NASCAR at Richmond performed relative to the expectations at that venue and relative to NASCAR races for most of this season?
Let's be honest, this is the best race this year and possibly with this car, period. I mean, that race was fantastic. And I've heard Dale Jr. mention it. The real answer is the tire, dummy. The tire fell off. And we heard Denny Hamlin talking about this a couple weeks ago, that they had a tire that literally they ran for 50 laps and didn't lose even half a second. And then they come to Richmond, and you've got tires that literally after 5 laps, you were at a deficit of guys that were on fresh tires. And that made all the difference in the world. You had guys that were able to pass people and were able to come from deep in the pack based on tire strategy. And having tire strategy put a broad brush across the whole field and let everybody do different things. There were probably at one point 5 or 6 different strategies going on in that race. And depending on how the caution flag fell, any one of them could have won the race. And that's what we want. We want to have these cars have a difference in speed so that you're able to pass people. And let's face it, most of the year, anytime the leader caught the back of the field, they struggled to get by cars that were obviously not as fast as theirs. So kudos to the Richmond race. Kudos to Goodyear for coming with a good tire, and glad to see that it was considered a sellout. You can get into the semantics of it because they have sections tarped off and all that. But to be fair, every ticket that was available was sold.
That's a good thing. Not only that, but the fact that the racing action was good. It backed it up. And that's one of the other ways. It may not be the ultimate judgment way when you're considering how money plays a role in things, but it's a positive for Richmond, and it's back on the schedule next year. There are a lot of other notes that have come from the NASCAR schedule going forward. When you look at the schedule so far, and I could give you a blank part on the takeaways for this, but I know Chicagoland back, all-star races going from North Wilkesboro to Dover because North Wilkesboro is going to get a points-paying race. Where are your biggest takeaways as far as what we know from the NASCAR schedule, which is 2026's version?
I say from the Cup side, I think Dover getting the All-Star race is a terrible idea. And Denny also referred to this on Actions Detrimental. At Dover, you need 50 or 60 laps to really get rubber on the track so that multiple grooves come in. And the All-Star race is short runs of 20, 25, 30 laps. So you're not going to get to a point where the grooves are going to spread out. Now, they may try throwing PJ1 on the top side or something like that to make a difference. But again, you're manufacturing something. You also don't have lights. So you're going to have an all-star race that runs in the middle of the day, which we haven't seen that since past the grass days. So I would rather have seen them leave Dover with a points race. Let's just move the All-Star race back to Charlotte. Charlotte came up with it. Charlotte is the ones that have perfected it, and let's just keep it there. The other thing I'm taking away, I love that Chicagoland is back on the schedule for a couple reasons. The last few races at Chicagoland, last 3, maybe last 4, were really good races. And especially that one where Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson had that amazing finish a few years back. So I'm excited to see that come back. And I would hope that this will lead them to maybe go down the road to have Kentucky get back on the schedule as well. From the broader perspective, I'm terrified to see what happens with trucks at St. Petersburg. We saw what trucks did at Watkins Glen the last race, and a street course is going to be about half as wide as Watkins Glen is. So I think that's going to be a catastrophe. But on the Cup side, I wish we had a little fewer road races. I don't know if we're going to get back around to those days or not, but the overall schedule, I think, is pretty good.
Neff, speaking of Kentucky,
time to take a detour in the fast lane.
And report that the news came out that more than 30 people were arrested after officials say that, I'm not joking here, influencers, one of my favorite terms, broke into Kentucky Speedway. And as the Three Stooges would ask,
are you that dumb?
The question is clearly yes, because they posted videos of it on social media and therefore got arrested. I only have this to say,
are you that dumb?
To which the answer is yes. Are you surprised by this? What is your reaction when you heard that news?
I mean, let's be fair. The whole premise of being an influencer is clicks and getting people to look at your stuff. And whether it's breaking into Kentucky Speedway or jumping off a spillway of a lake where you end up breaking arms, ribs, and backs as you end up sliding down the spillway, or, base jumping off of a building. I mean, all of these things are stuff that you're not supposed to do. But the bottom line is, if you're getting the clicks, you're getting monetized on the tube, and that's what they're after. So I get people trying to do it. It's kind of interesting from a perspective of getting to see what things look like that we haven't had a chance to see in a while. But yes, in the grand scheme of things, maybe throw up a picture or two, but when you start getting into video, you're just begging to get in trouble.
After Ed's potentially unnecessary detour, let's get back on the road in the fast lane.
Neff, we will go back on the road and bring up these different stories and aggregate them. Nashville Banner mentions that a deal between Metro and Speedway Motorsports to overhaul Nashville Fairgrounds and bring the Cup Series races back to South Nashville is in the works. Meanwhile, Rockingham Speedway, which had the Cup and the Truck and the Xfinity Series races this year, they've got $300,000, $375 to be exact, that they have to settle for the safer barrier expenses, and they're asking the county commissioner to chip in on that. Additionally, Ben Kennedy mentioned the Pacific Northwest is a target area for NASCAR. Portland, Seattle, Colorado's even been kicked around. Out of those 3 nuggets, which ones have the greatest impact on future NASCAR scheduling?
Wow. Well, we'll throw Rockingham out because I don't see long-term viability there. We've tried it before, and the fans just don't support the racing enough in that area.
Can I interject? Do you think the Cup and the Truck and the Xfinity have a future at that venue?
Maybe. I mean, and again, the last time we did this, Andy Hillenberg brought trucks back to Rockingham. We had 30,000 people. The next year, they gave away 10,000 tickets, and they barely had 15,000 people in the stands. The history there has just been a lack of support. And until we see 4 or 5 years of them selling a place out, like Kentucky used to do, when Kentucky literally for a better part of 15 years sold that place out for Xfinity till they finally got a cup race, and then they got it ripped away from them. Rockingham needs to prove that they can support it before you're really going to see that being a long-term viability.
Okay, meanwhile, we pivot off that because Rockingham is on the schedule to the other two, Nashville and then the Pacific Northwest, and we'll throw Denver into the mix there. Which one has a bigger impact on NASCAR scheduling, or do you see a spot where both of them could be in future Cup schedules?
Well, I'm not going to lie. I would love to see both of them on it. The Pacific Northwest has been underserved forever. We get the Xfinity cars, O'Reilly cars, although I guess we shouldn't say that till next year, running at Portland out there. So at least you get that little nugget. But there hasn't been a cup race out there forever. And I chimed in on, it'll show up on our Friday face-off questions on Front Stretch that in reaction to the schedule this year, I'd love to see them go to like Evergreen. That was a speedway out there where Casey Kane came from. I would love to see him, honestly, at Meridian, which is in Idaho. That would be a really interesting angle. And then, yeah, like you said, Colorado is a possibility too. But the history involved at Nashville, the Fairground Speedway, is just so embedded in NASCAR. And I mean, that's, Darrell Waltrip and the Fairground Speedway, and, Sterling Marlin's still been running there. It's just that venue has gone against the odds and fought an uphill battle for years to stay in existence. And to see that place get renovated, updated, and to get a cup race, I think would be phenomenal. And that's where if I had to rank them, I would put that first, the Northwest second, and Rockingham third. But the possibilities of the Northwest would be a good thing just because we've never been out there.
Mike Neff of FrontStretch.com with us in the Fast Lane. Neff, great to chat with you today. Appreciate your going an overview on this, and we'll wrap it up on this. Daytona this weekend. Do we get a repeat winner, or does someone shock the field once again, or at least win their way into this thing, even if it's not a shock like an Alex Bowman or Chris Buescher?
Before I jump on that, I do want to say one quick thing. Godspeed to Humpy Wheeler. So sad to hear that he had passed. There's never been a greater promoter in auto racing, and the sport would not be where it is today were it not for Humpy Wheeler. And I'm so glad that that he was in the sport. Sad to see him go. As far as Daytona goes, I'm curious just to see. I would love to see somebody win their way in, and then see a real battle between Alex Bowman and Tyler Reddick. Because there is a legitimate possibility that Tyler Reddick, who is 7th in points coming into this race, could miss the playoffs if Alex Bowman is able to gain 30 points on him and somebody else wins the race. And that would be an amazing storyline to follow out. So I'd like to see that happen. I'd love to see RFK have somebody win it just so they have somebody make the playoffs. In reality, I think you'll probably see somebody that's already won a race end up doing it, and Tyler Reddick will make the playoffs.
Mike Neff with us in the Fast Lane. Mike, appreciate your time, and a great point on Humpy Wheeler as well, particularly the first track to have lights at Charlotte Motor Speedway. That was probably the biggest innovation of any of them. It's changed NASCAR. Some people say too much, but it produced great racing in our backyard at Richmond, and a lot of that is because of the innovation years ago from Humpy Wheeler. So a fantastic point on that, as many of them come from you at frontstretch.com and MNeff Short Track on Twitter and Instagram. Truly is always a pleasure when we can connect.
Thank you, brother. Always an honor to be on.
It is our pleasure. Mike Neff with us here in the Fast Lane. When we return, we'll pivot from that to the Virginia Cavaliers. They look good coming off the bus, so to speak. They look bigger and faster. How will it all gel? Ahmad Hawkins, former UVA wide receiver and now football analyst for the Virginia Radio Network, friend of ours, steps into the Fast Lane next.
Don't miss the final days of our big summer sales event at Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Get a new 2025 Ram 1500 and save up to $10,000 off MSRP. Choose a new 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee and get retail bonus cash up to $3,500 off MSRP. Hurry in for huge final days discounts on over 230 pre-owned vehicles. It's almost over. Get to our big summer sales event at Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Bedford, 1750 Independence Boulevard. MagicCityBedford.com.
In the end zone, light them up. Touchdown, Liberty. Liberty Flames football is back. Be at Williams Stadium when the Flames kick off the 2025 season, Saturday, August 30th. See Liberty take on the Maine Black Bears. Kickoffs at 4 p.m. in Lynchburg. Cheer on Flames football and experience all the Williams Stadium traditions, 4QF, Flames Quarter, and more. Don't miss the Flames football season opener, Saturday, August 30th. Tickets at lufootball.com.
The feel of the beach is perfect. Relaxing with family and friends. Bonding over memorable meals fresh from the seas. It's a beach experience, and it's in our backyard at 801 Raw Bar in downtown Lynchburg. They're family-owned and family-operated, bringing you that relaxing beach house vibe while you enjoy the freshest seafood from our region, including raw oysters, king crabs, and snow crab. Not really a seafood person? Try their fresh handcrafted burgers, subs, pizza, and salads. Step into the relaxing beach house vibe at 801 Raw Bar on Church Street in downtown Lynchburg.
Savings are heating up, and so are the summer super deals at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. You don't need super strength to get approved for credit. Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is super easy on the Motor Mile with financing options for every budget. Sheeler makes car buying easy with the hottest brands all in one location. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Over 900 used vehicles in stock now and ready to move. More than any other dealer in the area, plus exceptional service, selection, and savings. Need some summer spending cash? Sheeler will buy your vehicle even if you don't buy from us. Plus super money for your trade. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume with over 900 used vehicles in stock now. No games, no gimmicks, just summer super deals at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier used car dealer, locally owned for over 50 years. ID1 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Hi, this is Bill Roth, voice of Virginia Tech football. You're listening to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle. Join the chat at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
Meanwhile, on the other side of the Commonwealth, a team that they have put a lot into in revamping their roster, the Virginia Cavaliers. Ahmad Hawkins, friend of ours, football analyst for the Virginia Cavaliers, and with us in the Fast Lane. Ahmad, a lot of folks who have been at practice regularly have made this observation. Even stood out to me to a large extent outside of Chandler Morris, who's not all that big, but the rest of them do. I'll get off the bus team that looks good, the Virginia Cavaliers. Hawk, first of all, glad to have you back in the Fast Lane. Always consider you part of our family, and we're grateful for your time today. Is this a team that not only looks bigger getting off the bus, but is prepared to back that up with their performance?
Yeah, they definitely looked the part. And, sometimes that's almost the most important thing because, it's like the Mike Tyson effect. You can maybe intimidate guys a little bit, but, in college football, you got to prove what you can do in between those lines. And, we went out and got some proven winners. We went out and got guys that just know how to work and know how to have that greatness mentality. So, you just want to see that translate from what I've been seeing on the practice field onto the game field in front of the fans.
Ahmad Hawkins with us here in the Fast Lane. You mentioned how things are going when it comes to this Virginia Cavalier team on the practice field. Chandler Morris at quarterback. We interviewed him Fast Lane, Ed Lane, wherever people listen to podcasts, because
and guess what? We keep receipts.
At the ACC football kickoff, as Coach Prime would remind us. And he seems to have the right head on his shoulders, but not necessarily the biggest quarterback. How important is it, and how close is he to digesting Des Kitchens' offense so that he can protect himself, especially with an O-line that may still have an upgrade in terms of parts, but dealing with an offensive tackle, right tackle, and an offensive tackle, left tackle, both of whom are going to miss, if not the entire season, Monroe Mills, extended period of time, Monroe the right tackle?
Chandler is very smart. He has a high football IQ, son of a coach, so he's been around the game a long time. And the one thing that sets him apart is he processes the information fast. So as far as grasping the scheme of Des Kitchen, is, responsibility of the coach as well to scheme around the talent of your quarterback and what they can and can't do. And he's very mobile. He has a live arm. And like I said, he'll spread the ball around as well, just because of his IQ, understanding pre-snap where to go with the football, and then post-snap if safeties roll down, to identify matchups. So that's what I've seen. Like, he can get the ball out quick. He has a big arm. He could throw on a run. But if he has to tuck it, he's very decisive. It's not a lot of jukes. It's straight downhill as you would want with a quarterback.
You mentioned the positivity of Chandler Morris in terms of being decisive with what he's being asked to do at quarterback. Dual threat, do you see a lot of running in the forecast with him, or is this more going to be running to throw and mostly making sure he stays out of harm's way and trusts what maybe not be the most individually gifted with one individual player as far as ball touching skill players? I don't like to call offensive linemen something other than skill players because it takes skills, a different kind. But a unit where, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like this unit around Chandler Morris, wide receivers, tight ends, and backs, may be more complete and more equipped to have multiple options than before.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to put a label on Chandler. I just think he's a guy that has, a lot of mobility. Like, if a team is blitzing, he can either climb the pocket or he could get away and throw on a run, as you stated. But if we run, read out, our zone reads, that defense end can't just crash because he has the ability to run the football. Like, he has very good top end speed. He's not a guy that's going to try to make you miss in a phone booth, but you have to respect him. You just can't go zone and just try to cover, because he can tuck it and take off. If he would just YouTube his highlights, he took off in North Texas and had, explosive runs of over 40 yards for a touchdown. So he can do a little bit of everything, but, to really answer your question, I just feel comfortable with him because if somebody's trying to blitz, he won't just rely on his legs and tuck and run. He'll just utilize his IQ and get the ball out to the hot receiver.
Is that the ideal thing for a quarterback, but also for this Virginia offense, as opposed to doing it yourself, getting more people involved?
Yeah, that's the safest way, because if a quarterback's dynamic with his legs, you can kind of start to box them in and use spies. But if a quarterback is defeating you with his IQ and hitting hot routes, as a defensive coordinator, that's very frustrating. That's what you see elite passers do. They don't have to run the football to make you pay when you blitz. They just know where to go with the football before you even get pressure on them, and that helps their offensive line better see schematically what you're trying to do as far as your twists and your stunts. And it can be demoralizing as a defensive back if you're blitzing off that nickel off the slot and the quarterback points and says alert. Like, he identifies that you're coming. So are you still going to blitz? Or now will you back off because he's identifying, like, yeah, I know when you guys are blitzing, so blitz at your own risk. So I would love to see him just utilize the weapons versus utilizing his legs as weapons.
When you mention those parts to this Virginia offense, the O-line is a key to that. And when you lose both tackles for a significant amount of time, as the Virginia Cavaliers have, what level of pressure is there on offensive line coach Terry Heffernan to get the rest of this offensive line up to par to where they can maybe not mask the skill set, but be able to have the pieces that fit together, starting with the Coastal game next Saturday night?
Yeah, I feel like as a coach, the pressure is always there, even if your starters are there, because they're only one play away. And if the starter goes down in the game and the backup comes in, well, if you compare the two, you're preparing that second string guy as a starter because he's taken the first team reps because that starter is out. But in the game, if they go down, that second string guy hasn't been getting the starter reps and working with the starting quarterback. So with those guys being injured, as much as it is a bad thing from the optic standpoint, as far as the work, it's better because they've been getting those first team reps and they're learning what Chandler typically does when he gets pressure in different situations. So they know the spots that he likes to go to. They know how he reacts to certain pressures. So, as far as the offensive line coach Heff is like, you always have that pressure of making sure the backup is prepared. Like, every coach should always have that mindset. It's like, I have to make sure my backups are just as prepared as my starter, because in football, you're only one play away from getting on the field.
Are you confident that the backups and now the players that have been elevated to starters, that what you've seen, they can fulfill that role, especially adapting early on?
Yeah, I'm confident because I feel like our defensive line has been done a good job of preparing them because they get after them. Like whether it's scrimmages, whether it's the one-on-one pass rush drills or 9-on-7, like the defensive front that we have that we constructed this year, they get after you. So they have no choice but to get better or they're going to get embarrassed. So that's why I'm excited to see how all these guys gel in between those lines when it's game time, because you can get accustomed to going against your teammate and start to look better because you know what your teammate likes to do. So a lot of times practice can be misleading. When you start to have success, that's why I'm always like, all right, I know what you can do versus your teammate, but what can you do versus that person that you don't know? But, you know, long story short, I'm excited because I know we have competitive depth, and I know what Chandler brings to the table. I know what our trio of backs bring to the table. I know what our receivers bring to the table and how they're coached. So that's why I'm super excited, because of all the moving parts working together as one.
So we'll wrap it up on this. We've touched on a lot of offense with a guy who knows offense very well because he played wide receiver at a very high level for the Virginia Cavaliers. Ahmad Hawkins, football analyst who's with us in the fast lane. Defensively, the secondary, they've sustained a number of injuries, 3 of them at the cornerback position. Overall, though, how much is this defensive line in front improved to the point where a lot of times the theory is if you've got the right defensive front, you can manage if there are injuries like there are in the secondary?
Yeah, I think the defensive front could get pressure with 4, but I think we have gotten better on the back end to where we could bring 5 or maybe 6. I think that's the biggest difference. We have guys who can play man-to-man. We have guys that have speed on the outside to run with receivers as well. You know, if you look at the guys on the depth chart, you look at their measurables, they're taller corners. But, you know, Persinger, a young corner that came in from Salem, the kid could run. He was a 10-5 and 100 sub, 22 and a 200. So he's been getting some reps with the first team because he's that dynamic. So, you know, if I see him in the game, I don't have an issue with him playing man, because if you test him deep, he has the speed to recover. But just overall, I know Coach Roy wants to be aggressive as he was his first year when he was a defensive coordinator, where we had 2 all-ACC corners because of how they schematically just played off each other. But I like what we're doing up front. I like our backers. I know Cam Robinson will be out, but we added depth there. So it's going to be – I'm going to be really anxious to see how we attack our offense this first week as far as pressures.
We look forward to it as well, Ahmad. Appreciate your time today in the fast lane. Glad to have you back once again. Football season's here, and good Lord willing, I'll see you a couple of weeks when William and Mary in Virginia get ready to battle in Charlottesville.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, brother. Wahoo wah.
Always a pleasure. Ahmad Hawkins with us here in the fast lane. W227BG Timberlake, WVGM AM Lynchburg, WMNA Gretna, Danville, Southside.
This is VSiN, the sports betting network.